Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the F3S/F3 Bluetooth keyboard. This uses Bluetooth 4.0 to connect to any PC, Mac, as well as Android or iOS device, and it's a pretty thin and small keyboard, but it also features a 7-color backlight, so you can use it under darker environments. With that being said, it's not exactly a full-size keyboard. Some of the keys are shrunken down. However, the F3S can be found on Amazon for about $30 or so it's not too expensive either. Otherwise, it has chiclet style or island style keys, and it comes in multiple colors, although we have the gold version here for review purposes. Comes with a user manual printed in full color, which is pretty handy. Shows off the various functions for each individual system and how to activate the multiple features, how to sync things up and charge it. Also includes a micro USB cable as well for charging the keyboard. It takes about 2 hours to completely charge, and then the LED will turn green once charging is complete, and then you can use the keyboard for, I would say, about 15 hours before it runs out of power. Taking a closer look at the design of the keyboard next, we can see that it indeed is one of the thinnest Bluetooth keyboards currently on the market, which does make it pretty portable and easy to tote around, and despite its thin portfolio, the construction quality is also quite nice. The front is made out of aluminum, the same thing with the back, so it is a metal construction. Unfortunately, this does mean that there are no rubber feet on the back, which means that the keyboard can occasionally slide around on a surface or a desk, so for stability, they could consider adding rubber feet or perhaps some kind of feet to pop up the keyboard at an angle for future iterations, but otherwise, indeed, it is razor slim. The sides also features access to the aforementioned micro USB port for charging. There are LED lights for the actual Bluetooth as well as for the battery, a power on-off switch on the very top, which is pretty easy to access, and then otherwise we have access to just a traditional keyboard layout with a space bar, pretty nicely spaced, and it feels even no matter where you press on it from the sides to the middle. There's also dedicated arrow keys on the sides. These two are reserved for the backlight as well as for the color changing and the brightness controls. I'll show you that in a moment. But above the standard QWERTY layout, you have access to a dedicated number row as well as media controls for iOS, Android, and Windows. They correspond to the home key, back key, adjusting the screen brightness on your mobile device, bring up a virtual keyboard, search client, internet browser, play, pause, skip track controls for music, and volume controls on the sides. Pressing unlock will again lock your computer as well. So these are pretty easy to use. One complaint I did have is that, you have a delete key over here, which is about the same size as a traditional, key that they use for the numbers and for the letters, which is a little bit small. Same thing can be said about the enter return key, which is labeled here, as opposed to, say, let's say, backspace. So it's a little bit cramped in these places, which makes take a bit of acclimation to get used to, but otherwise the keys themselves do have a pretty good response to them. They bounce back nicely, and you can type with I would say, a fair amount of confidence, and you get a pretty good typing speed after you practice using it for about an hour, I would say. So you can definitely get used to it. The bottom also features some accents and dedicated controls for Windows operating systems, but then again, it supports any computer or any system that has Bluetooth version 4.0 on board. One of the complaints we did have about the F3S is the standby mode. After let's say 10 minutes of inactivity, the keyboard automatically turns off, and then you kind of have to re-wake it up by tapping on a few keys or turning the power switch on and off again, and then going back through the connection with the computer or the mobile device. And sometimes that seems a bit more of a hassle compared to other Bluetooth keyboards we've seen in the past, where just tapping on a few keys basically brings the keyboard back to life and then it repairs instantly. This one seems a bit more finicky. So taking a closer look at the backlight functionality, we're going to turn off the lights over here, and we're going to turn on the entire unit on the side, so you can see the lights turn on all the way as well. And we can adjust the brightness controls here by just tapping on the brightness control icon, the Alt key, and also tapping on the function key as well. So it turns on to a default green light. This is the lowest setting. Tapping on it again allows us to turn it a bit brighter, so there are 3 different settings I can go through. This is the brightest mode. You can see that the keys are definitely visible even in an environment like we have here, where there's still backlights in the background, which is why it doesn't seem as dramatic. But in a complete dark environment, perhaps if you're gaming or typing in the dark, it does become much easier to see and access. And here we have the red backlight on, which you can see works pretty well. You can tap on a key there after it gets into standby mode. Tapping on function key and the change color icon. Now we have a turquoise kind of color going on. Tap it again for a purple color. Tap it again for a light green. This is more of a traditional white, and this is a dark blue. and then it goes back to the lime green that we saw originally. So it does work pretty well, and the lighting is pretty even for the most part, so it creates a overall nice feature and effect. I do like how the battery compartment is basically up top. It creates a slight bump or edge so that the keys are basically on the same level or surface, so when you are traveling with it, it has a bit of protection in this sense, and all the things are flush, so there's not anything that really stands out too much, or the keys aren't standing out too much, so they get accidentally pressed when you have it in a bag for traveling purposes. As far as performance goes, they do work pretty well. It has a connection range of around 10 meters or 33 feet between your device and the keyboard, and it seems quite sensitive, so when you're typing on something, the response time does happen almost instantaneously. There is a slight delay, but it's not anything too notable, and definitely comparable to other Bluetooth keyboards on the market, and you can get a pretty good typing speed overall, give and take. As far as, again, the comfort of the keys, slightly smaller than normal, but it takes a bit of acclimation, and it should be better than, I guess, typing on a smartphone or a tablet, because you do get that physical pressing action. Keys are tactile responsive, have a nice spring to them, as I talked about. So overall, it does improve your productivity if you have it with a tablet or a small computer. Just for the sake of typing out some longer emails or Word documents, it will definitely suffice. And for more performance as far as testing speeds, and we did a typing test as well, you can check out our official written review, which has more details as well. So this is kind of what it sounds like. It's kind of silent, but not completely. But overall, it's a decent keyboard, I would say. It's not a mechanical keyboard, but as far as island-style keyboards go, this is a chiclet, very clean, modern presentation going on with the individual keys all island and centered off by themselves. So you can check out more details about the F3S Bluetooth keyboard in our official written review. This has been our video first look here at OS Reviews, and thanks for watching.